Hello everyone, welcome to the RhoMobile Friday webinar. Today's topic, we're proud to announce our new revision of RhoHub version 3.0. This includes the new RhoHub IDE. So we're going to demonstrate how that works by writing a sample store application. This is the RhoHub landing page here. I'm going to go ahead and log into my RhoHub account. This is my RhoHub dashboard. It has all of my applications that I'm currently working on. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new project by selecting the Create Project button. We're going to call this the store, and we're going to give it a description as our store management application. We're also going to allow it to generate apps. So it now gives us some instructions on how to work with it using Git. We also can work with it online. And so that's what we're going to demonstrate today. So you can see the roasting project has been generated and the roads project is still being generated. It just finished here. And so we can modify the title of this here using the rename button. We can also change our description here. We can add collaborators, which is other users on RhoHub that we want to have access to this application by managing the collaborators here. Because it's a new application, I don't have any collaborators currently. So I'm going to go ahead and manage collaborators here and add user here. So now I have a new collaborator that is a member, and you can see their icon here, and if you select this it will show you their information. So now I want to edit my account or my application. We have a new button here called Launch Editor. So I'm going to select that, and it's going to open my application in our online IDE. You have your application here on the left. We have our public folder, that is all of our static assets. We have our icon folder, which is our icons that are on the device. And we have the app folder, which contains all of our Ruby code. We also have our roasting server, which right now, because we haven't added any source adapters, it just has our specs and settings folder and our application RB. So the first thing we want to do, since we're working with a store application, we need to define our model. So we'll select Actions and Generate Model, and we'll give our model a name. So since it's a store, we're going to have products, so we'll call this our product model. And we'll give it attributes like name, brand, price, and quantity. Now that we've done that, we can look in our folder here, and we have a new folder called Product. And this has our model, view, and controllers. We can see our product model here, and we can enable sync and save that. You can see it'll tell you the file's been saved, and I'm just using keyboard shortcuts here so I can hit Command S and it's saving my file. We'll also go to our index page, and we'll change index page to have a link to our new model. and so we'll just call this like products. We can also take a look at our images here, so we can see, well, what's the icon going to be? We have our default roads icon, and we can see the different size icons that are here. We can also view what our loading page will look like, and so we can have our default loading page here. And we can close these files as well. So that's our roads application. So we've done all the modifications we need. We now want to create a build for our application. All we need to do is go to our actions and build, and we'll pick what platform we want to build for. So I want to build for Android 2.2, for instance. I'm going to select create a new build, and you can see the build has started processing. And it typically takes a few minutes. It actually is going out and building the application from source, and will return a binary that you can download here that you can then deploy to your device. So we'll go ahead and close that while that's running, and we'll take a look at our RhoSync application. Since we've defined a model product, we want to have a source adapter for that model as well. So we'll select generate source, and we'll call our source product to match our model that we created on the client. So with our model on our client here, we now have our sources folder and our product RB. And so this is the default model here. It has the basic query, create, update, delete, but it doesn't actually do anything. And so I previously have a file I've created here, so let's take a look at that. This is a source adapter I've already created for the store here, so I'm going to copy this in and paste this in place of our existing model. We'll go ahead and save that. So one thing that I didn't do was actually commit our files. So they're all saved here, but they're not checked in. So when this build that I started finished, it's only going to have the default files. So what we need to do now, since we've made our changes, we actually need to commit our files to the repository. So we'll select commit here, and this is a typical Git interface since the backend version control is Git. So we have our unstaged changes here of all the things that have changed. So we're going to go ahead and add all of these. We can also add them individually using the icons here. We can add or remove them, but we want to add all of them since that's what was important to us. And so for our commit message, we'll just say added product model. And we'll select commit. Changes have been committed successfully. We also need to do the same for our RhoSync model. We'll open up actions and select commit. We'll then add all of our files here and give it a comment here as well. So all of our changes have been committed successfully. So now that it's committed, we actually need to fire off a new build. We did have our existing Android, but we did this one before we committed our changes, so it's not going to have any of the things that we did. So we're going to delete that build and create a new one. So this is going to do the build process again as well. Since we have a RhoSync application in this, we need to deploy it for testing. To do that, I need to just select Actions here and Deploy. And this brings up my deploy window. It's not deployed yet, so we can select Deploy, and it's going to start the deploy process. And so this also takes a couple minutes to do. And when it is finished, it will have a running RhoSync instance in development mode, because this is not a live application. So we'll go ahead and close that, and we can close that. So this is our new feature that we've added. This is our editor. You've seen how you can edit files, you can access the builds, you can commit things directly, and you can do various other things as well. You can generate test frameworks, you can generate the models. And we have syntax highlighting for our Ruby code and HTML code. We also have keyboard shortcuts and our Git interface. Since we fired off some builds and some deploy processes, let's go back to our dashboard and take a look at the progress. We'll go to my account here. And you can see we have a couple of buttons here. We have our build, which is yellow, which means it's still in progress. And we have our green for our RhoSync app, which means it has been finished. So we'll select on this deploy button here, and it'll give us the information of where this is deployed to. So we'll go ahead and open this in a new tab, and we can see that we're going to get our interface here to RhoSync. This is my running instance of RhoSync. And we can see that we're logged in, and we have 10 devices available because this is a development mode application. So we'll go ahead and close this. Now our build is finished, and we can open up our build management here and see that we have this completed build. So if we select this, it'll download the build as a zip file. However, we're also going to use RhoGallery today. And RhoGallery is an application management tool that allows you to invite people to galleries of applications and deploy them on devices. So we're going to close this window and go to our Galleries tab. In our Galleries tab, you can see all of the galleries that I'm currently collaborated on. I'm not going to go over this in detail. We have a previous webinar that explains how the RhoGallery works. So we're just going to go ahead and add our current application to an existing gallery. So we'll add a new app, and we'll call this our store. And we'll say, use this app for store management. Since we did an Android build, we're going to select the Android build. We'll have the app version is 1.1. App ID is com.RhoMobile.store_roads. This is the default ID if you haven't changed it in your build YAML file. You can easily set this to an arbitrary value. And this is just the generated value is com.RhoMobile and then your application name. So we'll select next, and we have all these various options. We can do a RhoHub build, we can do a local build, or we can do a remote build. So we're going to do a RhoHub build, and it shows all of the apps that I can do. So I'm just going to select my store roads, and that was the one that I had built this morning. I'm going to go ahead and select next now, and it's going to take the build that we've done and upload it into our gallery. Once we've done that, we can see we have our application target device, and everything looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and finish. Now that we have that, we'll go to our Android emulator here, and we'll open our link to get our RhoHub thing. It's actually on the page right now, but the link here is bit.ly/getrho. And this is going to open up our download Rho gallery page. I have an Android device, so I'm going to select the Android build. It's going to start our download. And we'll go ahead and install Rho Gallery to our device. I'm going to log in with my Rho Gallery credentials that were sent to me when I was invited to the gallery. And we can see the galleries that I have been added to. We have the Webinars gallery and the Brian gallery. I put my store application in the Brian gallery, so I'm going to open that gallery now. And you can see I have API samples and store. So store is the app that we just did, so we're going to install that. We'll select the install button here, and in the background it's going to download and install the store. I have the confirmation window here, so I'm going to say I want to install this. Application is installed, and Rho Gallery has now realized the application installed, and I have my launch button for my store. So let's launch our application we just created. We now have our application running and the products link that we created. Since we set up a sync server with a source adapter, let's log in and get our synchronized data. So it's now connecting to our sync server that we had set up. And so one thing you might be wondering is, well, how do we know? How can we tell? What happens if something goes wrong? So if we go back to our dashboard, we can actually get the log file from our sync server. And that's what this button here for is, called Heroku Logs. So I can select this button. It's going to go ahead and download our log file and display it for us. And you can see I'm getting requests from when I was accessing the console. And at the bottom here you can see I'm getting a request for client login and client create, and then it's continuing on with the sync process. And so I have all of this information here about all the posts and gets that were performed, as well as how long it took and how many bytes were returned and transferred. So we'll go back to our Android emulator, and we can see that we now have synchronized data. And if we open up our products, we have our large list of products that are on our backend service. So this application was fully created using our RhoHub IDE and is now running on our Android device. And we can also go back and build it for any other devices we may have. So for example, I want to build it for a Windows Mobile device. I can create a build here, and it'll start doing a build for Windows Mobile. I can also say I want to do a BlackBerry version. Say I want to do BlackBerry 6 and create a new build here. And so it's going to start processing builds and have a download link. And I can also add these to the galleries for my Windows and BlackBerry users. So that concludes today's demonstration.